And I think we live now. So whenever this pop up, so it won't echo, I'm gonna click out of this thing and we can start it off. Are you guys still with me?
We're here.
All right, cool. Now I hope I don't kick myself out. There we go. Now tonight we have a treat. We have a tag team duo here. Double trouble. We have Debbie Irvin, whom I've interviewed before, and you guys can check out the video. And tonight we have Kimberlee Williams, who's also has a book. Well, let's go back to Debbie Irvin, who's a racial justice educator and the author of Waking Up White, and the New York Times bestseller, who's alongside Kimberlee Williams, who's hailing from Washington, D.C., who's written the book, the author of Dear White Woman, Please Come Home. And it seems to, it's a book that was written in, when was it published? I was,
February 2nd.
Okay. And you guys both co-published it, Debbie, you and right?
Debbie did the hard work. She's the publisher.
Okay.
I was just going to say, Kimberlee did the hard work. She's the author.
Right. And it's a series of 40 letters to a fictional missing white sister who's it's also based on real events. Each letter serves as a testimony to microaggressions, as you put it, that undermine and make invisible black and brown women in relationships difficult. I just kind of wrote sporadic notes here about that, but it's they have like 40 letters, and we will go over some of the chapters in brief, not through the whole thing, because we want people to purchase the thing. And I have questions for both of you guys about how did you, Kimberlee, come up with the idea for this book? If you can begin with that. Talk.
Yeah. So
how did you guys meet, actually?
How do we meet? Let's go back to the real beginning.
Through the workshop that you.
No one has asked us that yet, Kimberlee.
Yeah, nobody has asked.
Okay.
You want to tell the story?
So, I met Debbie. Oh gosh, Debbie, I don't even remember how many years ago now it was, but at the People of Color Conference. And I don't even remember what city it was in. I don't even remember what city. Tampa. It
Florida.
Was in Tampa. Okay.
Because you guys live in different sides of the US. Debbie's on the East Coast, and Kimberlee's, although she's from DC, she lives on the West Coast in Seattle, correct?
Right. Yeah. Right. But at the time, I was living in the same state. I was living in Massachusetts when I met Debbie, but we met at a conference in Tampa. And she was selling her book, Waking Up White. And she had, what drew me to her booth where she was selling the book was she had these huge posters that asked the question, people of color, what would you say to white people? And then I think white people, what would you say to people of color? Or what would you have them know? Something like that. And I just thought, wow, no white person has ever asked this question before. And that's what drew me. And we got into a conversation, and the rest is history, a beautiful history.
Right. Now, how did you come up with the idea for this this book here?
Yeah. So again, Debbie and I were friends. And so anytime I got a chance to support Debbie's work, I did. And my birthday had come around, and my partner bought us tickets to go to one of Debbie's events. And she was hosting an event for Black women and white women to get together, connect, heal, share truths and things like that. And at the workshop, at the end of the workshop, it was an opportunity to share truth and for white women to respond to that truth. And white woman after white woman after white woman kept saying, like, what do you mean I don't care about you, or I don't care about what you go through. I didn't know what you were going through. I didn't know. And I thought to myself riding home, I was like, my soul was set on fire. I was so angry. I thought to myself, what do you mean you don't know? Like, do you have TV? Do you watch TV? Do you have YouTube? Do you watch the videos? Like, do you read the newspaper? Because these stories are everywhere. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe white women don't know if we as Black and brown women have been trained to withhold the truth, or to sugarcoat the truth, or, to pity pat around it, instead of just being direct and sharing what we are experiencing. And sometimes that is the harm at the hands of white women. And so I decided, I was like, you know what? They're not going to say I didn't know again, because I'm going to tell them the truth. And I'm going to write a book of letters. And I think I was joking at the time. I think I was just angry. But then I started writing, and here we are 4 years later.
And you sure did. Going through the book, you've hit on some details and certain chapters that really talk to me that we can get into a little bit later, that you can discuss later. And I forgot your background, Kimberlee. Bachelor of Arts in Foreign Language Education from University of Maryland, MS in Education from Dominican University.
Dominican University.
Dominican University. She lives in Seattle, and avid learner of languages. You said you have 5 languages to date. None of them would be Scandinavian, no?
No.
And what are some of the languages? African languages or Arab languages, or?
I speak
Arab,
Spanish, French. I can speak survival Mandarin, and I can I can communicate pretty well in American Sign Language too. So I love languages. I love learning.
Right. And yeah, so she's an educator, the DEI administrator. What is that right there? I've been far removed from, I've been living in Norway since 2012. DEI.
The diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, there we go. And administrator, consultant, workshop leader, speaker, and certified life and health coach. And you mention somewhere, I read that you guys also collaborated in different workshops, correct? And you and Debby, or was it that, or you? Okay, so you guys met.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. So why are the friendships between white people and people of color often harder than they are within our own racial groups? Because you touch on that a lot in your 40 letters.
I would say it's just that we have different cultural practices that are the norms of our different cultures are just so vastly different from one another. And so the way, even the idea of walking into a room, I just had this conversation with my niece the other day, walking into a room and it being considered rude, not to say good morning, or not to say, not to acknowledge the presence of someone who's already in the room. Like that would be considered rude, and it might be acceptable in other cultures.
Right.
And if we can't talk about those differences, and we can't engage around those differences, we end up in conflict a lot of the time, and then we don't get to resolve it because we've been trained to just walk away after we end up in conflict.
Right.
The other thing I think that's really, can I jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
One of the things I think is really important about what makes these friendships hard. So Kimberlee was talking about how in her culture, her home culture, she and Black and brown folks in her world were taught not to share truths with white people. And that was out of self-protection, because historically sharing truths with, someone who looks like me can mean, really serious repercussions, all the way from the end of a life to being ostracized socially, being demoted at work, let go at work, teachers who will take something out on children. So the general rule of thumb, the dynamic between white people and people of color is when people of color try to give white people some feedback about how we're impacting them, it doesn't usually go well. And so the historical habit is to just not share truth. So that doesn't make for an authentic friendship.
Correct.
And so what Kimberlee's doing here is breaking, the social code of her culture.
Right.
In hopes of enlightening people like me. So
definitely.
it's a pretty heroic feat in my book, or in her book, as the case may be.
No, definitely, I can say that as well, because came across a book that came from the angle that you did, to teach, other people how to approach people, white people or whatnot, and the things that kind of we go through, from big hair to all these other things that we're going to get into, that I enjoyed. Speaking of that, how was it with the collaboration with you guys, the cross-racial collaboration on this project between you two? How was that?
I would say a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My husband put insulation on my door because we were so loud, because we were having so much fun.
Okay. Right.
We laughed a lot, and we've earned our friendship with each other. We've both put in a lot of time. We've been really honest with each other. I've pointed out my own whiteness when I find it happening around Kimberlee. Kimberlee's checked me a few times. We actually had a really funny moment, or a powerful moment, where I said to Kimberlee, we were working on something, because we did a lot of co-editing once the book was done. And she was saying, Debbie, because we're working on a shared document, right? But we're on Zoom. And she said, would you please move the cursor up? And, could we just make that word, don't instead of didn't? And she just had like the whitest, most polite voice. And I said, are you coddling me? Are you like being extra polite? She's like, oh my God, I was. So she had kind of slipped into her special white voice for me, that's that code switching thing. And I wanted to tell her, you don't have to do that. You just tell me, God damn it, change the word.
Right. Yep. Nice. Now, through your own close relationships with white women, this book, now I know you said it was a fictional white sister or whatever, but there were some real events in there, and some I can tell I believe they were real events, like when you go into the barber shop. Well, at least some of them, I couldn't tell which was which, but I mean, some of the situations and events that you talked about in there, I can see myself in that same experience. And we'll get into that. And both women of color and white women can definitely benefit from this book. I see. What let me see what other questions I have. I was supposed to have a co-host, as I told Debbie, and she was supposed to show up, but she had other engagements with her children, and so I don't have as many questions that I've thought I was gonna have tonight. But I guess we can get into the book, and I can tell you what I enjoyed from each chapter. Like, for example, at the end of the chapter, you have a section called Pause, Reflect, and Discuss section, which I like a lot, because it gets you to engage, or the readers to engage and interact. And that, I think, is really awesome. That's what I enjoyed about the book. Oh, and before that, I can't believe I didn't get into the advanced praise and the people that helped endorse. Debbie Irving here wrote the foreword in the book, and I probably won't be able to name every person, but Robin DiAngelo, author of White Fragility and Nice Racism, were one of the people that praised your book. Valerie Alexander, speaker, screenwriter, director, author of How Women Can Succeed in the Workplace Despite Having a Female Brain. And the other name, I think, is it Elisa Maria Govin? Or Lisa?
Ilsa.
Ilsa Maria Govin and Tillman Smith, co-authors of What's Up with White Women, Unpacking Sexism and White Privilege in Pursuit of Racial Justice. Julia Lythcott-Hames.
Yeah, I think it's Lythcott-Hames.
Lythcott-Hames. I'm going to butcher everything tonight. Speaker, activist, New York Times bestseller author as well. And so these were some of the people that gave praise to this book. And there were several chapters. Like you said, 40, I call it chapters, but 40 letters. And some of the letters that I wrote on the side that really spoke to me and got to me, I was wondering if we can go through some of them briefly, and you can kind of explain some
Yeah.
of them or elaborate on some
Oh,
of them.
absolutely.
We will start out with big hair, or
Big hair.
don't big hair don't care.
Yep.
And where, as you were talking about the standard of whiteness
Mm,
being literally the goal, and it also affects men too, because the
right.
relaxer, happened with all of it.
Oh yes, my brother
Like
had one.
definitely, I still got little damages from using the relaxer trying to straighten my hair. Don't know why back then. And I used to see my mom with
Ah,
the hot comb and
Hmm.
all those things like that, which I like that you put historically with the Madame C.J. Walker in there,
Yes.
and then you talk about the big chop, chemically
Yes.
processed hair, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So could
Yeah.
you get into that
Yeah.
that
Uh,
letter or whatnot?
well, I get a lot of questions and comments because oftentimes
Yeah,
my approach is going into this work is asking people, what is it that you want to know that you don't know and you're afraid to ask? So I
yeah,
get a lot of questions about my hair.
hmm,
And I think that white people, or I'm almost certain that a lot of white
yeah,
people have no idea what the
right,
hair journey for Black people has been in this country. And just thinking about my own hair journey and how it's evolved from when I was young and my hair was natural, little elementary school kid, and my hair was
right,
natural, but it was straightened with the hot comb. And then
right,
moving from the hot comb to the relaxer,
right.
and then moving from the relaxer once I found out that my hair was so damaged to the
Mm,
to having to cut it all off and to grow it out naturally. It's been a journey, and I think letting people, again, this goes back to white women saying, I don't know, I
because
didn't know, I
I used to
didn't
have that
know.
S curl, that some of that S
Oh, the
curl back
S
in there.
curl, yes, the S curl. My brother
And
had an S
I
curl,
know the
yes.
process when it comes,
Yes, yes.
Oh my
And people
God.
got,
I can't
if we
believe
can share this openly, right?
yeah.
You can't believe you went through that. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What? All the money I've
Yeah.
given, all the money and time
Mm,
and pain, money,
yeah.
time, and pain.
mm.
To be acceptable, right? To
Right.
look more acceptable to white folks in public is just
Right.
unbelievable.
So the day in the salon chair in Dallas, Texas.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
I remember the lady who was doing my hair, and if I hope she's listening. Her name is Miss Tina, and I remember just
Mm,
sitting with Miss Tina and
right.
crying,
Right.
crying my eyes out, and being in disbelief, right? Like, what do you
Mm,
mean? Like, what do you mean? And then going to the dermatologist there, Black woman,
yeah.
Dr. Rogers in
Mm,
Dallas, and her saying, yeah, you've got to stop. You've got to, not only do you have to stop, you
mm,
have to go through treatment to stop the spread of the balding in your scalp,
yeah.
because this will just spread until
Right.
all of this area up here
Right.
will be
Right.
bald if you don't
Right.
treat it. And so I
Right.
started scalp injections.
Right. Right. And speaking of hair, that Colin Kaepernick, the Colin Kaepernick, even
Mm-hmm.
people with mixed kids, they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to, white women are trying to, I see it all the time. And Colin Kaepernick hits on some of the stuff with the
Yes.
hair in his
Yes.
documentary film and Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of attention in that. Yeah. And then there's another one that hit my attention, the She Ain't Welcome Here.
Yep.
That one, the vanilla chai tea,
Mm,
and also when you spoke of your father and the high blood, and then the high blood pressure that you were
yeah.
yeah. Could you get a little bit
Yeah.
into that
So that
letter there?
She Ain't Welcome Here letter, I think about that, and that's something that both women of color have talked to me
Right.
about, and white women, right? Like,
Yeah.
from the perspective of a woman of color, uh
Mm,
wait a minute, Kim, before you go out here speaking for all of us, is she ain't welcome here? Ain't no white woman, I ain't inviting no white woman to come home. Like,
mm,
she's never gonna be my sister. She's never gonna be
mm,
my sister. I'm never gonna be able to trust her. um
mm.
and they'll point back to my own life and say, you're living proof that we can't trust them. Like, what are you
Mm.
doing? What are you thinking?
And I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
go ahead.
because I know in your book you talk about you're a humanist, and I consider myself a humanist as well, and we always talk
Mm-hmm,
about this
mm-hmm.
one human race, and then when we talk about not trusting and not being able, you like question your humanity, you being a humanist when it comes to like trusting and having to trust people of other cultures and race, always, question myself, and I yeah. So it really hits because I grew up too, pretty similar to you, I'm sure. My mother telling me from early age about, not trusting, and then eventually, she and she's supposed to be Christian, and I'm like, well, Mom, why we're supposed to love everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you'll understand later, and things like that. And then she eventually progressed as that was concerned. But I remember my mother herself, she even told me at one point, she said, well, it's not all white people. It's some of those, she said, actually, the Europeans, not my mom told me straight up, the Europeans, like first, second generation, they're cool. Some of those Yankee ones, the ones that been out here most of the time, those are the ones that usually have the problems and things like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you were talking about
she ain't welcome here. I remember, and I won't out that member of my family, but there was a member of my family who once said to me, an older member of my family, that said, and this was a time in my life where I was calling a white woman or a white girl my best friend, and this family member said, she'll never be your best friend, and I said, no, she is, and she said, you don't understand what I'm saying to you today, but she will never be your best friend. And I defended this person to the T. And when I tell you, Rob, when I came out as gay, I think 20 years ago now.
I was gonna talk to you about that from where I read, because I didn't realize it until late. I was like, when?
Yeah, that's my
partner's
nickname.
Wine? She meant wine. The girl meant wine. Let me. So we got something else up in here going on. All right.
I will tell you.
So common amongst us folks.
No, it's not. It's not. We are. If it is, we are closeted most of the time. I came out, and this white girl that I was referring to as my best friend, she said, your family. So
I was tap dancing myself around that subject for a little bit.
No, don't. I'm I didn't know, and I'm more than willing to talk about it.
Got you.
This white friend said to me, your family's going to reject you, because my family is hugely Christian. And Black, right? Your family's going to reject you, but I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to be here for you. And Debbie, you and I often talk about the patriarchy and white women's allegiance to the patriarchy.
For sure.
And this same person that I defended against my family member who said she will never be your friend. And this was in like middle school, high school, when I was defending her. Fast forward 10 years when I came out, she met and married a white man. And then all of a sudden, she was no longer my friend because I was gay, and because I didn't hold the same beliefs where Christianity was concerned. I didn't believe in the same deity or God that she worshipped. And all of it, she called me one day on the phone, and after an hour of listening, I finally stopped her and said, "Are you calling me to tell me that we can't be friends?" And she said, "Yeah, I guess that's what I called to say." And all of those conversations came crashing back in my memory. Like, I defended you against my family that said you would never be trustworthy. And here you are proving what they said about you, that you don't even know they said this about you, right? Here you are proving this to be true. So when people say to me, Kim, I can't get with this book. Kim, I don't agree with this book. Kim, I don't trust, blah, blah, blah. I understand where they are, because that hurt me on a level that I can't even explain to you. And I'm not even sure today that I have fully healed from that. I'm not even, and this was back 15 years ago. And I'm telling you, I don't know that I've fully healed from that conversation.
Wow. And then also you touched on your father too. That's another heavy subject. And as I told you about my mother passing 2 years ago.
I will tell you
shortly after I interviewed Debbie the first time. So that's why I can kind of relate to that right there. And
it's an experience. Losing your parent is an experience. I'll tell you, I grew up with my mom, my grandfather. My mom's dad passed away when I was 6. Yeah. And I have nothing but great memories of who he was, but I was 6 years old when he died, right? So how many memories do I actually have? But my mom would every year around Father's Day or around his birthday or the anniversary of his death, we'd go to the cemetery down in North Carolina where my mom is from. We would sit out with the photo album and cry. And I remember thinking, my mom is an adult, and this is the mind of a child, right? My mom is an adult. Why is she crying so much? Right? She's an adult. Adults don't, they handle everything, And when this happened to us, it hit me in a way, and I feel myself tearing up right now. It hit me in a way that I know that only people who have experienced the death of a parent understand.
Absolutely.
And he was he was a good person, and he had struggles, but he showed up for the family. He was the person that got me to and from piano lessons, dance classes, forced me to practice piano when I didn't want to. And I even realized that through that process where the racial divide and the cultural divide is, we grieve differently. We process death differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. My mom, it's kind of similar, with your father. My mom, I was going against her. I ended up going to a HBCU because of her, actually. And I enjoyed it. And now I'm all talking about HBCUs. But back then I was fighting her because I had missed it. I had missed the admission period to go to the white school, to the public university in Oklahoma.
Right.
And she was like, well, they got Langston University down the road, and they admission don't start to, and I'm like, Mom, I ain't going to that school and all that. And I'm telling you, and I think about her and I can tear up, and I'm And I'm telling you, I met some friends that we're friends for life. And I mean, in the HBCUs, that was the best thing I ever, it was one of those things. So I can relate to that. So that hit me very much so. And speaking of that letter, you also hit on the disproportionate numbers of African Americans suffering from high blood pressure. So that in hypertension and then the connection with racism. So that's the part that I really felt as well. And then when you're talking about the vanilla chai tea or whatever.
I just had one a couple days ago. I just had my once a month vanilla chai.
Right. And then the next letter, 13, and you think you were violent. I had the hockey game.
Yes.
The hockey arena. I actually never went, and they play a lot of hockey out here. And I actually been invited to go, and I never been to one. And I like how you saying they was chanting, kill him.
I was terrified. Listen, I was was like, what is going on up in here?
Right. Barbaric, violent, and extreme, and talking about the traditions and things like that. Could you get a little bit into that part about the
I think about the fact that we are highlighted. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen that documentary, Malice in the Palace. About,
come on now, with the basketball.
Right. Yes.
I had coached basketball and played basketball for some time.
So this is right up your alley.
Absolutely.
I used to follow the Pacers, like the 76ers, I was watching that. I was like, Black and brown people who express anger or frustration externally, right? Like with hands or body or gestures or whatever. And we're supposed to swallow no matter how we're treated. We're supposed to remain calm. And I'm watching this documentary.
Especially that one right there.
Yes, the man was crying.
He was laying down.
Yes.
Laying down the whole time. Like what you want us to, what else? Yeah.
Right. And I was sitting there. I was sitting there and I thought to myself, I was sitting at that hockey game and I was terrified, and beer was being spilled on me. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, I never see this on television or on the news and marked as violence. This is seen as normal.
No, I like that perspective
hockey players are fighting, but if NFL players get into it,
That's
right?
true.
Or basketball players get into it, somehow it's not okay.
Right.
Somehow
I
it's not
always
okay.
thought that too. I'm like, yeah, I had the same thought pattern. That's what I'm saying. It really kind of,
Like,
yeah,
and you think we violent? I mean, these
right.
people, I'm telling you, Debbie, this is
It's
not an
like regular.
exaggeration. They
Yeah.
were
Debbie
standing up
probably
in the,
already know.
Oh,
they had,
I know.
Debbie
they
already
had
know.
they were like, kill him, kill
Boston
him. I was like,
Bruins.
wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Well, do you know the expression? I went to a fight the other day and a hockey game broke out. Because that's just the expectation. Like the tradition is like people are like, oh, they like live for the hockey fights.
Right.
I mean, these people were on their feet chanting, kill him. I mean, it was on the Jumbotron, like the letters, kill him. I was like, wait, what? I was like,
right.
What? I
See
mean,
what I'm
I
saying?
was terrified.
Wow.
I was like, what is happening?
Right. And then when you go to the discussion portion of the thing, and you asking about how, which is the traditions in your family practice that were considered violent, dangerous, extreme by other cultures, normal, how would the way they alienate women of color and impede the bonds with others, and things like that. I think that was a great analysis there. And then I went to jumped up to 27. That reached out to me, More American Than You. I think that one hit me the hardest. That one right there.
That experience.
And when you talk about working at the Orange County near Boston, and the only Black adult on faculty, and I kind of got to being in Norway, I work at a school. And I definitely can relate to some of those things right there, for sure. And could you elaborate or talk a little bit about that? And I like how you talk about who does the title American belong to. There's so many things in this letter that speaks out to me. Yeah. And go ahead.
Not long after the book came out, Debbie, I don't know if you remember, I think you remember, but our good
Mitch
friend,
McConnell?
where he did the exact same thing that's in that letter.
She already knew you.
Right? Where he used the word American to mean white. And white people don't even realize that they do it. They don't even realize, they just, you American,
American dream, as you put it. American pastime,
America's
as you put it.
favorite pie, America's favorite, and I'm like, wait a minute, America's favorite.
But
and America's favorite pie ain't sweet potato pie, I'll tell you that. Maybe pumpkin, I don't know.
Apple, right?
Key lime, no, I don't know.
No, but that was hard. That was like sitting in that situation. And what was hardest was that no, I'm going to say more than half, 75% of the room did not hear when this man said American. And the people that did hear it did not feel comfortable speaking up and correcting him. And that was painful as an understatement. Painful as an understatement. It was a reminder that I didn't belong in that organization. It was a moment where I felt more alone than I ever have. Not just because of what he said. I could not excuse or forgive. I could move past what he said because I'm used to that from white folks, right? But the silence of the people that I thought were my friends, that is what harmed me on a level that felt irreparable, felt like I couldn't get past.
Right. I mean, isn't that area around Massachusetts kind of known for historically right, Debbie?
I would say, is there everywhere I go in the country, Rob, people say, anti-racist say this is the most racist city in the country.
Right. I always heard that, but I know it's other places too, definitely, because Portland, you thought that was where the co-host is from, Oregon, Salem, but Portland, Oregon, how you think that's like the utopia beacon, and then you're hearing all these protests and all these other things going on, and so it's definitely not the case anymore. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Debbie, about you were saying that you always heard that people all over the country saying it's historically pretty racist in that area, but you say it's no different than other places you travel, correct? Or
I mean, I think it manifests a little differently all over the country. Boston has a really bad reputation, and it's bad on the ground because it's bad on the ground everywhere. I mean, if there were a safe place, maybe Atlanta's the closest thing to a city where Black and brown folks can live and not feel like whiteness is center of every day. But Boston has a terrible rap because of the very high profile busing debacle and traumas of the 1960s and 70s. So
right.
I think that's what I've heard stories.
At the same time, you have a lot of great scholars coming from that area, and from the,
who endure, unbelievable racist shit in
yeah,
their everyday lives, in the classroom, going to get a burger, coming to and from, on the bus. It's everywhere. What I have heard, Kimberlee, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I was at a gathering of government in Boston and learned that the Patriots and the Celtics have been unable to attract some of their top choices.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a
because
fact.
They're
they talk about it. They talk about that a lot in sport.
I'm not going to move my family
talk about it a lot.
Boston.
That's a fact.
I'm not moving my family to Boston. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I don't care. You can't pay me enough to move my family to Boston.
Wow.
And I visited the Boston area one time, but it was Walpole for the prison. Around that area or whatever, and so I got like a somewhat of a taste of Massachusetts, and I was like, yeah, I something in the air, I sensed, a little different how it manifests itself, as you say, out there. But and so we get into the 30th letter. Sucks being a woman, don't it? That one in particular there as well spoke to me about that when you admitted to the hospital, the OBGYN issues, and the traumatic experience from that there, from that visit, and you going through that, and your sister becoming a nurse, as you say, and you being upset about that. Could you get a little bit into briefly into that letter particularly?
Well, I think it's and
because that touched me too. Yeah.
My OBGYN journey has been one that people have just, like, doctors have just said to me, like, I've never seen this in somebody your age, or, I've never seen this in, like, we have nothing on the books. I was treated at one of the top hospitals in the nation, at the, oh goodness, give me a second, Mass General in Massachusetts. And they've in the past scored like #1 in the nation. And they were like, we don't even have this anywhere in research studies where we know what to do with your situation. We don't even know what to do. We're just treating you as aggressively as we can. And it was very traumatic, because I didn't know that I had all these things going on in my body. And it was interesting to go back to that place and to remember the people who were most comforting in the situation, and the people who were the least comforting in that situation throughout my experience. And I'll tell you, the people who were the most comforting were Black and brown women. Second to that group would be white men. And the least comforting were white women. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I tell you, the white guy that was one of my surgeons said to me, and it was when I had gotten really, really bad news. He and I had just come out of a surgery, and he was letting me know that I would have to have another surgery.
Right.
And he said,
it was like ongoing thing there.
Yeah. He said, if you were my mom, my wife, my daughter, my sister, and it's funny because he did that empath thing, right? If you were a woman in my family, I would want you to know and to hear this from me. And so I'm coming to wake you up, to give you this bad news, because I would do the same thing if you were my daughter or my wife or my sister and that's what it's about. Can you say, if this were me, If this were my family, if this were my, and so, yeah, I will say that I'm glad that chapter of my life is closed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have children though? I'm just curious about.
No, I do not have children. I do not.
Okay. Yeah. And then that leads us to 37, One Planet, Pandemics.
One
I believe
planet,
that's what it's
two
called. It's called,
pandemic.
excuse me.
One planet, two pandemics.
One Planet, Two Pandemics. Correct. And in that two pandemics, you were talking about, of course, the pandemic that we all know through this COVID, but the second pandemic was the racial pandemic at the same time going on, that the world was witnessing, as you say, with police brutality and the Karens and all those things that we're going to get into, which is the next step, letter right after. But yeah, and and what you were going through, it was during that time, as you said, you were home recovering, and then you realize and find out that the pandemic had you just been announced, and so all kinds of panic, fear, and depression were going on at the same time. Could you talk a little bit about that period?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard because again, that was the closing of my OBGYN chapter, where I had gone in to have a hysterectomy, and it was the last day that elective surgeries were even allowed before the pandemic. And being at home, just like the rest of the world, watching the situation on the ground with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, it was weird going into Debbie. I don't even know if I told you the yogurt story. Debbie, did I tell you the yogurt story?
No.
So people were on edge, right? Everybody's freaking out, toilet paper, right? But like where race is concerned, people did not know how to interact. Like I thought we didn't know before all of this. We really didn't know. People were on eggshells. I was in the grocery store and I was picking up some yogurt, and me and a white woman.
You would think the pandemic would get us all as humans to be more together, but
no.
Yeah.
We were going for the same yogurt, Chobani mixed berry. Okay. We were going for the same yogurt, and she snatched her hand back like, no, go ahead. And I was like, no, you go ahead. And this was before like the shortages began, right? There was like 12 of these yogurts on the shelf. She's like, no, you go. I want you to have it. I'm like, we could both have it. We could both have this yogurt, and she was so like, no, I don't want to take yogurt from you. And I'm like, if I had time, I would tell you it's not about yogurt, but I don't have time. So I'm going to grab this yogurt. You're going to grab that yogurt, and we're going to be about our business. But it was just so funny that she was so uneasy grabbing the yogurt. Like, I'm not racist. You can have the yogurt. You take the yogurt. Take the yogurt.
Right.
Kimberlee, I see myself in that. That kind of stuff happens to me.
I can see a little bit.
Yeah. Guilty as charged.
Right.
Too nice.
Definitely. Because I remember when I asked you about that guy that came at you the way he did in that interview, I was like, wow. You remember that one interview that by Debby?
I do. Yeah, I do.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. You was real nice in that interview. I'm surprised you didn't just be like, you know what, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, I was very new at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking more. Yeah. This is like the grocery store scene. Excuse me. Like, I could. I'm sure. Are you sure that wasn't me, Kimberlee?
It wasn't you, Debbie. I promise. I would have
recognized. Because it wasn't in Massachusetts. But yeah, no, that's just like so totally something.
And also, so recovering, and then you moved to the West Coast, in Seattle area, and stuff like that, and the isolation and all kinds of stuff, going on at the time. And then right after that is the Who's Karen, of course. That letter turns Karen,
Karen.
Becky. Yeah.
That the Karens. And they were everywhere, right? Everywhere. We got people falling on the ground crying in Victoria's Secret. We got like people, in the park.
That's one of the funniest gifts that I've seen with a lady, like, my God.
You're like, what is happening?
Right.
And Debbie, I think you speak a little bit to that. Like, white supremacy doesn't love you either. Like, she's
bucking against the system, so of course they don't. Right?
Yeah. Like,
no. Are you talking about her fragility?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's one of the things I talk a lot about, is that as a white woman, I have been so protected and taught not to rock the boat if you don't have anything nice to say at all, that when the conflict arises, like now I can do it. But I, spent decades of my adult life just like falling on the floor crying. I wouldn't fall on the floor, but I would melt down easily or manipulatively.
Those white tears that you talk about all the time.
Yeah. Right. Get out of a police ticket, a speeding ticket.
Hey.
Just cry.
Right.
You two can't do that, can you?
Wait, no.
Wouldn't even consider it.
Right. And I like how you split Karens, because they are always caring about the wrong thing. I wrote that down. It cracked me up. And like from barbecuing, bird watching, and showing up to rental properties on vacation in their own homes, and all kinds of stuff going on there. Also, so have you are you Debbie, are you we're at the tail end of this. We have like 6 more minutes. Is there any other publications or anything that Debbie or Kimberlee, you guys working on at this point in time, or any event that's coming up soon that you guys can kind of name? Because I know Debbie's very active on her Facebook or Facebook group or something like that as well. Kimberlee, are you like on another social media platform that you're heavily active on? Like I don't know.
Instagram,
I don't know all the new. I don't even use
Facebook.
Instagram. I just use Facebook and YouTube. So you can go ahead.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all of them are my full name, Kimberlee Yolanda Williams.
Okay.
And you also have this great website that I would send people to.
Okay.
EngagingAcrossDifference.com.
She's having a lot of book talks where you actually get to hear her read letters, which is, when you hear Kimberlee read one of these letters, it's like this piece of paper becomes like fire. It's great. And also all of these media interviews she's had are on her media page. So
and what's the name of the site again?
EngagingAcrossDifference.com.
Okay, engaging across difference. Differences or different? Engaging
difference. A lot of people say differences, but it's singular difference. Yep.
And also I think the website's right in the first page of the book, like on one of those early pages saying stay in touch with Kimberlee at her website.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So follow this woman. She's amazing. And she's just beginning to share her voice publicly. So.
I see that. And so are you doing any type of talks, online events or anything like that? Any of you guys so far at this point? No.
We had the 2 launches. We had a launch that was kind of like West Coast based, and then we had an East Coast based launch where I got to read letters for those that attended. It was amazing.
Okay. And we're doing, our goal is to do 2 a month through July. So if people follow Kimberlee, they'll hear about them for sure. And those are free. Those are great. Those are free. You hear her read. And
Right. Well, definitely. I appreciate you, Kimberlee and Debbie, for coming on my show again. And so I look forward to posting this in my Facebook so everybody can check you out and purchase the book, and they would go directly to purchase the book, the website, and as well as Amazon or
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold. Correct.
And there's an ebook too, a print book and an ebook. And then we're going to work on an audio book.
Whose voice? Both of you guys' voices are gonna be on that one, or you can be the white. No, there's no response back from the white sister.
No, we're not acting it.
Yeah,
I would read my introduction, but no, Kimberlee would read the book. These letters in her voice are just like mind-blowingly wonderful. So,
right. And maybe you can have a part 2, and Debbie, you're the white sister writing back, or I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So thank you once again for both of you guys. It's been nice. Yeah. And you guys have a nice afternoon, I guess, over there. Early evening, afternoon.
Yeah, have a good weekend over there.
Yes,
right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's getting started right after this. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much.